going to break down who some of the people from UFC Noche should fight next. Now, I'm not going to do every single fight on the card. I'm just going to do the fighters on the prelims that I'm interested in, and then I'll do all the main card fighters. So yeah. So starting off, we with the first fight I was pretty interested in was Charlie Campbell versus Alex Reyes. And in this, I think Charlie Campbell should fight. I reckon he should fight. It's interesting because there's a lot of good fights for him, but I reckon you do Charlie Campbell versus Damir Hadzovic. I don't know if he's still in the UFC. I think he is. I don't think he's got anything booked, so I'd like to see that fight next. I think that'd be a fun fight. Both, brawlers on the feet, both fun fighters. So yeah, I'd like to see Charlie Campbell versus Damir Hadzovic. That just makes a lot of sense to me. And for Alex Reyes, I wouldn't mind him versus Victor Martinez. That'd be a cool fight. Or you could do Alex Reyes versus Trevor Peek if he loses to Muhammad Yahya, because they were booked against each other before. So yeah, that'd be a cool fight. And then the next fight on the card that I was interested in is Roman Kopylov versus Josh Fremd. I spoke about this briefly yesterday. Roman Kopylov versus Chris Curtis. That's the fight to make. Anyone who says anything else, they're wrong. Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. We need to see that fight. If Chris Curtis is moving down to welterweight, which he is teasing, which I don't think he will actually do because he's teased it before, but if he is, then you do maybe Roman Kopylov versus Michelle Olachechik when he gets a ranked fighter, or I think he does deserve a ranked fighter. I think Roman Kopylov has earned a ranked fighter. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, all finishes, and finishes they get you a lot of big opportunities, especially the way he's finishing fights. So maybe you could do Roman Kopylov versus Andre Muniz, or Roman Kopylov. Well, Brunson's gone now, so yeah, maybe Muniz versus Roman Kopylov. Give him a pure jiu-jitsu guy. Or you could maybe give him Roman Dolidze. Dolidze's just lost the Derek Brunson fight, so maybe you could do that, but I'm not too sure if Roman Dolidze's going to want to fight backwards. So I guess we'll see what happens there. And for Josh Fremd, you could do Josh Fremd versus Phil Hawes. I think that makes sense. Winnable fight for both of them. Phil Hawes has taken a lot of damage, but I think with his takedown defense and Josh Fremd not being the greatest striker, that's a really winnable fight for Phil Hawes. But Phil Hawes has taken a lot of damage and he's been chinned quite a lot. So it'd be interesting. It'd actually be a good fight. It could be a bounce back for Phil Hawes, or it could be a good underdog win for Josh Fremd. So I guess we'll see how that one goes if that does happen. I mean, I'm just suggesting it, so I doubt it does happen. But if it does, you never know. But yeah, that'd be a good one. And then we have a fight that was in the featherweight division, which was between Kyle Nelson and Fernando Padilla. So Kyle Nelson, he's actually on a little bit of a streak at the moment. He went to a draw with the Korean Superboy, then he beat Blake Builder, and now he's just beat Fernando Padilla. So honestly, I know he wants a big step up, but I don't really think you can give him a massive step up. But maybe you do him versus William Gomez. Neither of them have the greatest wins, and neither of them are winning too impressively. So I wouldn't mind seeing William Gomez versus Carl Nelson. Maybe do that in Canada, especially I don't know where in Canada it's going to be, but maybe if it's in Quebec. William Gomez is French, so he could maybe get some support there, and he could do some French-speaking media or something over there. Because he's from France. So I feel like that would make sense. I don't think the UFC are really going to try and build Carl Nelson up. He's not really marketable, and his fight style is not too entertaining. But I guess we'll see. Maybe the UFC will see something in him. And then for Fernando Padilla, you could do him versus. maybe Austin Lingo. I think Austin Lingo's still on the roster. So yeah, maybe Austin Lingo versus Fernando Padilla. That'd probably be a fun fight. Austin Lingo's like boxing heavy. Padilla's just like a brawler, but he throws some, he throws head kicks and stuff like that. Seems like he has a bit of a taekwondo style. He's like a worse version of Yair Rodriguez, respectfully to him. But yeah, that's the fight that I think makes sense for both men. And then the next fight on the main card, we had a lightweight fight between Daniel Zellhuber, the most German-sounding Mexican ever, versus Christos Gargios. I probably butchered that, but for Daniel Zellhuber, you know, where was what's his name? Where's okay? So Christos was 35 on the rankings. So maybe you could do Zellhuber versus Claudio Pajes, the guy who Dan Hooker beat. That would make some sense. I think it's a really good matchup for Zellhuber as well with his takedown defense. He has really solid takedown defense. Like he's got some strong hips. Like, it seems like it's really hard to get this man down. And Claudio doesn't really go for like doubles or singles. He more shoots, like well doesn't shoot. He more just keeps going for leg locks. But I think this would be a good stylistic matchup. A lot of Claudio's fights aren't the most entertaining because most of the time it's him getting like fucking just beat up and then, oh, we got a leg lock, he wins. Like that's normally how Claudio Pajes fights go. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do Zellhuber versus Claudio. Uh, I think they're going to go to Peru soon because they have a lot of fighters. They've signed a lot of fighters from Peru. Obviously, a lot of them from Dana White Contender Series. But I think the UFC are going to notice, well, we have actually a big roster of Peruvians. And actually, wait, is Claudio? Oh, fuck. I think he's from Chile, isn't he? Oh, fuck. Whoops. But, is he Chilean or is he? Oh, no, he's Peruvian. Okay, good. I was like, oh fuck, I hope he's not from Chile. Yeah, so Claudio Paez, he's from Peru, so that's good. And they've got a big roster of Peruvian fighters now, so I think it would make some sense if they're going to do a Peruvian card. Maybe you could do Zellhuber versus Claudio Paez in Peru, like Fight Night Lima. That'd be cool. Zellhuber from Mexico, so he's Latin American. I know obviously Mexico and Peru are pretty far apart. Mexico's in North America, Peru's in South America, but still he speaks Spanish, so he could do some like media and stuff over there, and build a fan base, and it would just be good, to get some Spanish speaking fighters over in Peru, and yeah, I think that'd be a good matchup for Zellhuber. I think it's a really winnable fight for Zellhuber as well. And for Christos, who do you match Christos up with? So he was 35. I don't know where they're going to move him in the rankings, but maybe you could do Christos versus Rafa Garcia, maybe. Or if he's going to go back in the rankings a little bit, maybe Christos versus Fares Zam would make sense. Zam just beat Jai Herbert, so that'd probably make sense. Fares probably deserves a bit of a step up. And yeah, I reckon that'd make sense. Or maybe you could do Jamie Malarkey versus Christos. Jamie Malarkey on Twitter said, I'd love to fight either of these guys, so that would make some sense. So yeah, that I reckon those fights make sense for Christos next. And then we got a fight in the bantamweight division between an 18-year-old and a 33-year-old. Of course, I'm talking about Raul Rosas Jr. versus Terrence Mitchell. So in this fight, Raul Rosas Jr. just brutally KO'd fucking Terrence Mitchell. And who he should fight next is like really interesting for Raul Rosas. I'm hoping for Raul Rosas' sake they don't go, you beat Terrence Mitchell? Okay, it's time for Damon Blackshear. Like I don't think they're the fights that you want to go, Marcus McKee. It's time for Marcus McKee versus Raul Rosas. Like I feel like They should do him a bit of a solid here and not immediately throw him to someone who's like. I feel like they should give him a step back in the rankings. I know he beat Terrence Mitchell, but Terrence Mitchell, no offense, but he's probably arguably one of the worst guys on the roster. And I'm thinking, I think most of these contracts are 4-fight contracts. So in my opinion, the UFC should go, Fernando Garcia, you just lost to, you've lost 3 fights. You lost to Rinya Nakamura. How about we give you another shot? How about you versus Raul Rosas Jr.? I feel like that makes the most sense. He's been shown to not be the best in the takedown game. He lost to Journey Newson, lost to Brady Highstand, lost to, like I say, Rinya Nakamura. I feel like that's a good fight for Raul Rosas Jr. Stylistically, it's a good matchup for him. He could probably out grapple Fernando Garcia. He goes by another name, doesn't he? Fernie Garcia. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. He goes by Fernie Garcia. I was thinking, sure they call him something else. So yeah, Fernie Garcia versus Raul Rosas Jr. makes a lot of sense in my opinion. It's a good stylistic matchup for Raul Rosas. It's not a massive step up. Like I would say, Fernie Garcia is a step up from Terrence Mitchell. So that I feel like that makes a lot of sense. It'd be a good matchup for Raul Rosas. You build him up. You're not rushing him up. So yeah, I reckon that makes the most sense. And then for Terrence Mitchell, I don't know if they're going to cut him or not. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. If they're not going to cut him, then I think a fight that makes a lot of sense would be if you do Terrence Mitchell. And I don't know if this man's been cut either. I haven't seen anything that he's been cut, to the best of my knowledge. But I reckon you could do Terrence Mitchell versus JP Buys. Now, I don't know if he's been cut or not. If he has been cut and I've missed it, then yeah, maybe you could do Stephen Kozlow versus Terrence Mitchell, 2 of the lower ranked guys. Or, knowing the UFC, they'll probably just put Terrence Mitchell against Rinya Nakamura because they I don't think they really want to build Terrence Mitchell up or JP Buys up. So they'll probably just throw fucking Terrence Mitchell to Rinya Nakamura, even knowing that's a really bad matchup for Terrence Mitchell. I could see them doing that. So yeah, either if you're going a nice approach for Terrence Mitchell, you could do him versus JP Buys. But if the UFC just say, oh fuck it, let's get rid of this guy, then yeah, you could do him versus Rinya Nakamura. Which that's probably what they're going to do, if we're being honest. And then we move to one of my favorite divisions in the UFC. We had a UFC welterweight bout between Jack Della Maddalena versus Kevin Holland. Now, Kevin Holland just got 30-27, in my opinion. Some people have said that they thought Kevin Holland won. I don't see it, but in my opinion, Jack Della Maddalena clearly won that fight. And for Jack Della Maddalena, I'd love to see him versus Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal would make a lot of sense, in my opinion. He was originally booked against Ian Gary, but now Ian Gary is saying Jeff Neal can sit down, shut up. I'm not fighting him. Now, that's pretty much like Ian Gary said, I'm never going to accept a fight against Jeff Neal again because he pulled out, which is really cringe. It's like the guy had a medical issue, man. What do you want? But, he said, sit down, shut up. So now it's going to be Jack Della Maddalena versus Jeff Neal, in my opinion. I think it makes sense. Maybe you could also do him versus Vicente Luque. But yeah, either of them fights make sense. They'll both be barn burners. And Jeff Neal lost to Kevin Holland a couple of years ago on the regional scene. And obviously MMA math doesn't work, but I'm sure in his mind he'd be like, I lost to Kevin Holland, but if I can beat the guy who beat Kevin Holland, then that's better than beating Kevin Holland, instead of him wanting to rematch Kevin Holland, he'll probably be like, well, if I beat the guy who beat Kevin Holland, that's gonna help me maybe with some confidence. I'm sure he's not thinking about Kevin Holland or anything nowadays, but yeah, I think that would make some sense. They're both boxing heavy. It'd be a fun, stylistic matchup. And yeah, I reckon that'd be a good fight to make, Jack Della Maddalena versus Jeff Neal. And now for Kevin Holland, he actually had a call out on his Instagram. He called for a fight against Neil Magny. And I feel really bad for Neil Magny because Neil Magny is like the fucking punching bag for everyone who wants to be ranked or wants a bounce back fight at welterweight. Like literally every man and his dog calls out fucking Neil Magny. Gabriel Bonfim called out Neil Magny. What's his name? Rinnat Kretinov called out Neil Magny on his Instagram. Uh, yeah, just everybody calls out Neil Magny. I feel bad for him. He seems like a really nice guy. Like Ian Gary called him out and then accused him of being a domestic abuser, which was really unfair for Neil Magny. Like Neil Magny's just an awkward guy, but I don't think he's going around fucking beating up his kids. But still, I feel bad for him. But every man and his dog, even Jack Della Maddalena said he was targeting a fight with Neil Magny or Vicente Luque after this. So I feel really bad for Neil Magny, but yeah, I'd like to see that fight. I reckon that makes some sense. Kevin Holland, I think Kevin Holland would beat Neil Magny as well. So it'd be a good bounce back fight for Kevin Holland. And yeah, it'd probably be a fun fight. I think Kevin Holland would get a pretty violent finish on Neil Magny at this point, but it could be competitive. Depends if Kevin Holland's going to play around or not. But yeah, I like that fight for Kevin Holland. And then in the main event, we had a women's flyweight championship bout between Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. Now it was a draw, but I don't know if you can give Shevchenko another fight like for the championship. She lost the first one and then the second fight was a draw. I don't know if you can do a trilogy at this point, but if you don't do the trilogy, I think you can. This is the way I would have it done because obviously there's two number one contenders at the moment in Manuel Fiorot and Aaron Blanchfield. I think I rate Blanchfield beating Tyler Santos at flyweight more than I rate Manuel Fiorot beating Rose Namajunas at flyweight. And then also I rate beating Jessica Andrade more than I rate beating Caitlin Chookagian. Obviously, Caitlin Chookagian lost to Jessica Andrade. So I would have Aaron Blanchfield fight Alexa Grasso, and then I'd have Manuel Fiorot fight Valentina Shevchenko for the next shot. I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's what I would do. So I'd have Aaron Blanchfield fight Alexa Grasso, and then I'd have Manuel Fiorot fight Valentina Shevchenko, and then the winners can fight each other. I think that makes the most sense instead of having all the fighters sit around and do nothing. That's what I would do personally. So yeah, they're the fights to make next after UFC Noche, Grasso versus Shevchenko 2. So yeah, let me know if you agree with these matchups, if you disagree with these matchups, or if you completely agree with these matchups. Let me know if you agree. I'd like to hear it. I like feedback. It's always good to get feedback from people who watch my videos. Because yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate anyone who watches these videos. Appreciate anyone who likes these videos, and I appreciate anyone who subscribes after watching these videos. So thank you. I'll catch you guys next time.